this episode of the podcast was just about to post. A little secret, podcasts are not live. So they're recorded and then edited a little bit. I don't take anything out, but I just kind of put it together, add the music, that kind of stuff. Little sound bites here and there. And sometimes we recorded yesterday, yesterday being Wednesday. Scott and I did. I'm Brad. Scott's here too. He'll talk to you in a second. We recorded yesterday, and I edited it yesterday. I had one little thing to do, and I went to bed, and then I got up this morning, and it was time to post it. And just as I was about to post it, the group text messages started flying, and then next thing I know, I'm doing some Google, and I'll allow Scott to talk about what we discovered this morning before posting the podcast that you're going to hear in just a minute. But we've got some news. What's up?
You want some peas and rice?
Yeah, so I think it was probably around 8 in the morning. We started getting text messages with palm trees in it, which was a really good sign.
Good sign.
And it turns out the Bulls are going back to the Bahamas.
Yeah, buddy.
Yeah. They're going to face Liberty.
Ugh.
That is what it is. But it's probably be a pretty good matchup. Two teams there, 8 wins or more, and we'll see if Liberty still has their head coach. Jamie Chadwell has kind of been in the mix for some of these bigger jobs that have opened up, and you never know what secondary jobs open up once the first ones fill up. So, it's a full month until then. So we'll see. If he makes it, he's come out and said, "Oh, I'm definitely staying," but that's usually what you say right before you leave.
Yes.
Anyway, so that'll be an interesting little thing. But yeah, going back to the Bahamas, I saw a little snippet. We had a little snippet of a clip that was sent to us of the guys of the team finding out, which is fun. Which I'm sure that they'll put that out because that's awesome to see everybody's reaction of, "Oh my God. We're going to paradise for a week in January."
Yeah.
So that's going to be it's going to be awesome. It's good timing. It's perfect timing if you're us.
Yeah.
Like you said, coming up in the podcast, we'll talk about, hey, we have families, and going to Detroit the day after Christmas would suck.
Yes.
And going to the Bahamas in the first week of January does not suck.
I will say,
this is great.
I didn't get the most enthusiastic reception when mentioning, hey, good news, the bowl game isn't until January. I led with January 4th. Good news, the bowl game's not till January 4th. Okay, good. Where is it? And then, it wasn't as happy after that. But I'm in, man. We have willed this into existence. I think I credit us for mentioning the Bahamas as often as possible to Mark Allnut and really to the world, to the gods of football, and putting it out there that we are interested. It has been 5 years since we've been on an actual trip to a bowl game. The last one was, in fact, the Bahamas, 2019, December of 2019, just before the COVID thing happened. The last 2 bowl games we've not been able to attend, one COVID-related, one weather-related, where we were supposed to take a plane to Montgomery for the Camellia Bowl, and then there was a blizzard, and then we were maybe going to drive to Rochester. None of that. That's all out. We're just going to hang out in Western New York and Central New York for the holiday season. And then I think Lil Jon is hosting a New Year's Eve party in Nassau, so maybe we'll go to that. That sounds all right.
Yeah, I could. Yeah, no, I'll probably call my guy John.
Big John.
Yeah, if you're friends with him, I think you just call him Big John. Everybody else calls him Lil Jon.
Oh, I thought you meant
we'll
Fuller.
Hang out for a little bit.
I think this makes John Fuller Big John.
Oh, I didn't even. Yeah,
he's a beautiful man.
Yeah, a couple of beautiful men.
Yeah,
big, glorious, beautiful men on New Year's Eve. I don't know when we're going. I only know that the game is January 4th.
And I'm packed.
At 11 a.m.
Yeah.
And, it's like I'm going to have to throw a couple of Hawaiian shirts and a pair of shorts into a bag, and I'm ready to go.
I've got my Hawaiian shirt that I bought for the last trip. I think I've worn it one other time since, and it was when I emceed a meat raffle. So this thing has been worn in the Bahamas and in like a VFW post, but it is ready to go. I remember last
God
time.
bless America. Well, it's time to break it back out.
Yeah, let's do it. All right, so we needed to put this at the beginning of the podcast because if people tuned in, whatever, downloaded, listened to us talking for like an hour about the season and potential bowl games and I don't even remember all the things, the recruits, all the kids coming in. You hear that, and we ignored the fact that the Bulls are heading to the Bahamas Bowl to take on Liberty on January 4th. That would just sound dumb. So we had to do this. We'll tack this on at the beginning, and then we'll post the podcast. I mean, literally, I was just about to post it. So we're recording this. I'm putting this at the beginning of it, and then you're going to hear what we recorded on Wednesday. And then we'll be back very soon to talk more about the Bahamas Bowl and mostly just the Bahamas Bowl. Yeah, we got a month of talking about going to the Bahamas. And, hey, an extra, I mean, from a football standpoint, we will talk, you'll hear it on the podcast you're about to hear about the extra practice time you get when you're in a bowl game. It's one thing if you're in a bowl game on December 14th. January 4th, man, they've got a bonus month plus of practice and preparing for this game / getting better for next year. So that's the other, the silver lining there's not even a cloud, but there's a silver lining also. So that's pretty cool. All right, you got anything else you need to say before we talk for like an hour about everything else?
No, I'm just, I'm excited.
Yeah.
Atlantis is great. There's going to be beach and beer and
water slides into
football,
sharks.
Water slides into sharks and it's going to be great. It was great last time. It's going to be great again. And if you're listening now, I would seriously consider changing whatever your holiday plans were and making a go at it. Atlantis is awesome. So I'm sure that there's going to be some cool deals out there to get down there for the game, support the Bulls, and have yourself an unbelievable New Year's.
There might be stuff directly through UB. I don't remember how that works, but I do know that I was at the Bahamas Bowl website, and there's information there about packages that include travel in the game and all that stuff. So worth checking out for sure. All right, Scott, I'll talk to you soon.
All right, cool.
The UB Football Podcast is a BKR Media production.
This is the UB Football Podcast with Brad Ryder and Scott Wilson.
What's up, UB Football Podcast? 8 wins on the season. The Bulls do not get to go to Detroit, did not get the help they needed, but they get to keep practicing because there is a bowl game coming up that will be announced in the next few days. We'll find out where the Bulls will be headed. I'm Brad Ryder, joined by Scott Wilson. As always, I guess we'll start with the win over Kent State. Not much of a challenge there for the Bulls. We talked all year about every game being close and tight, and you don't know who's going to win except for the one sitting at the end of the schedule, and that played out exactly as we thought it would.
Yeah, it's what you want your team to look like. If you're going for 8 wins, you want the game to look like that if you're playing a winless team. They all over them from the start, dominant in the trenches, and Kent, while they had some moments of fight, looked in person and in that position of the last game of the year a lot worse than what I had even talked about last week. And that, I think, is because there were several of their players that were banged up or that they were trying to redshirt that weren't going to play. But then also to have their starting running back and wide receiver just kind of not play helped tip the scale even further towards the Bulls. I mean, Krishan McCray is one of the best wide receivers in the conference. And he pretty much said, I'm going 0-11. You guys can go 0-12. That's not going to be me. So he just sat out. We all said, well, he's going to be in the portal in about 10 minutes. And on Sunday, he was in the portal. So he's out there. If he'd like to just stay in Buffalo, we'd more than welcome.
Sure.
More than welcome to pull up a chair. We'll take his speed and his ability outside. But, they were just going to say it was just terrible all the way around. And the Bulls came out and did what you wanted to see. Dominate, sacks, knocked another quarterback out of a game.
They keep doing that.
Even though it wasn't necessarily from a hit, it was, guy wrapped up his legs and he slammed his head back on the turf and he was out. So still, I guess, still counts to a certain extent. And, made plays all over the field, and offense looked good. Defense looked dominant. It was a nice, comfortable win, which, with all the excitement the Bulls have had this season, all the crazy games that we've talked about, and 2 overtime wins, we haven't had a lot of these.
No.
And certainly haven't had a game like that in some years, where the Bulls just really came out and thought they were the better team beforehand, looked a much better team during the game, and had a comfortable, easy win in the end.
3 consecutive touchdown drives to start the game is pretty cool, especially when it's mixed in with several consecutive stops to start the game. I'm not going to count how many. It was 26-0 at halftime, but 19-0 right off the bat. 75-yard drive, a 91-yard drive, a 54-yard drive after a nice punt return by Victor Snow gave them a short field. Just a thorough beatdown, never any sort of discomfort, never anything. The kind of thing where at halftime we're like, all right, who needs to still be here? Because there is, at the time, possibly a MAC championship game coming up, and that didn't quite happen. But there's a bowl game coming up, and there's a bunch of practice time coming up. And that's something we don't talk about, or maybe people don't think about enough. I think we bring it up this time of year whenever we get the chance. But what it does for a program moving forward to have an extra month or more, depending on when your bowl game ends up being, of keeping the team together, keeping the kids, moving in one direction, heading toward not just a game, but heading into next season. That's the sort of hidden bonus of being a bowl team, is you get to stay together for a lot of extra time, a lot of extra practice, put in a lot of extra work, and it improves you for next year.
Yeah, for sure. And it just for the mere point of, most teams stop playing football in November, and your team gets to continue to play football. And it shortens up the time between spring practice and the actual season. And just the more practices, and I know opportunity in a lot of those practices to get back to basics, really go back to working on fundamentals, some of that stuff that you really wouldn't necessarily be able to get to because you're installing game plan, you're working on specific trends and traits that you're trying to take away from the other team, and scouting and stuff like that. And you get to rest in some of those practices some of your more veteran guys, and you get more reps with top units for some of the guys that will be stepping up next year into the places that are going to be open. Sean Dolak's backup. Do you know who he is? No one does. He's going to get some reps here over the course of this month in practice, so that he's going to be able to keep continually to have a guy step in there. It's really important for programs, and you can see it when it happens. It becomes kind of a thing that next year you're starting off with a half step forward, if not a full step forward. So, yeah, it's great for them. And then you put on top of it that, you get to get all the guys together, and you get to go out and have a one last week of, this is the last week that this particular version of the team is going to be together, and a lot of seniors and guys moving on, and being able to go out and do that. And I remember, going down to Mobile, and first or second day, seeing a group of guys walking out of the hotel and saying, "Hey, where are you guys headed to?" And they're like, "We're just going to a Waffle House across the street, and it's going to be awesome."
Right.
And just being able to have those types of memories, and all the different events and stuff coming up for wherever they go, is fun. Wherever they go, some places more tropical, and that opens up a different area. But Boise had a lot of fun stuff where they had a huge indoor go-kart track, and they had races with the teams, and snow tubing, and you get to do a bunch of fun stuff there. And obviously the Bahamas has sand and the ocean and pools,
Coconuts.
and water slides through shark tanks.
Yeah.
And stuff like that. So no matter where you go, you get something fun. Mobile, we went out and they have the big parade down in for Mardi Gras, and that's super fun. So no matter where they go, it's going to be a fun week and a good opportunity. But for the actual team itself and on-field product, it's great to have an extra month to practice with the guys.
In Arizona, Snoop hands you the trophy.
That's cool. Yeah.
That's something you'll never forget. That's
I would assume that there's gin and juice available, probably
at least for
fairly
broadcasters.
freely.
At least for broadcasters.
For sure.
I mean, that's kind of my concern here is what we're up to. No real.
It should be stated. Broadcasters in the Bahamas Bowl, we got our own free room with free beer.
Yeah, that was great
every night, which was great.
Yeah,
which was great. So
yeah, that's
a lot to live up to for other places since that was our last actual experience at a bowl game that we could go to.
That is crazy. That it's been we went 4 years. That was the last thing that happened before the crazy 2020 season, COVID season that was shortened, and we were broadcasting from home even when the team was on the road. It was a weird year, but I remember thinking even then, I'll trade a trip to the Bahamas for next season. Like, that's all right. I don't need to travel anymore for a little while if you get me one of those. And I'm still, of course, crossing my fingers, not only because of the location, but because of the timing of it. I mean, that's January 4th. Now let's take us out of it. Personally, that's fantastic for people with families with young kids. You and I just get Christmas over with. I don't mind spending New Year's Eve in the Bahamas. That sounds pretty fun. We could hang out, see if we get that room again, hang out on a balcony and just overlook whatever's going on down there. That was great. But I lost my train of thought. Oh, for the kids, you move it to January 4th. I mean, that's a month of practice. I'm excited for them to have this week, like you talked about, not knowing an opponent. It's reminiscent of the bye week to a certain extent. I remember talking to Pete Lembo. I had the chance to do a video podcast thing with Paul Peck and Pete Lembo during the bye week, and I asked him, what kinds of things can you accomplish right now? It was about self-scouting, and he was really into it and really explained to me how nice it is to be just working on football as opposed to working on a game plan, working on an opponent. And as of right now, until Sunday, I think it is, that we're expected to hear all of the bowl announcements, they've got nothing to work on as far as an opponent. It's just fundamentals, which you already brought up. But give me that until Sunday, and then tell me I don't play until January 4th. Now I've got a month. I've got 3 weeks of just working on fundamentals and working in a little bit of the opponent here and there, but all of it just adds up. So that's one of the reasons that the Bahamas Bowl is my number one target.
Right. And I don't know the academic schedule over there at UB, but I
don't care about the academic schedule.
Something that late allows you to really there's no stress on finals as far as practice time.
Right.
So if you can really work around that, whereas I believe Montgomery, it's not the Camellia Bowl anymore, but whatever the
68
bowl
Ventures.
Is, yeah, whatever it is now in Montgomery now. They're playing on, I think, the 14th of December. So I mean that's already a tight turnaround.
Yeah.
So you're messing with some different stuff there. Now that does give you some advantages as far as if some people on your team decide not to take finals, then you don't have to worry about it. But still, it gives you an opportunity. It gives you a lot more distance as far as what you can do practice wise and how you can take some stress off some different stressful periods for an actual student's life.
I've been doing these games. You've been doing them too since 2008. This is about the third time academics have come up. So I don't know what that says about us. Just my interest lies in football. And yeah, I know that stuff is a factor and can be a factor.
It
but
still matters. Still matters.
Man, do I never think about that unless I find out somebody's suddenly ineligible or we're fearful that somebody's not going to be able to play. But generally speaking, I don't think about the student part of student athlete at all. And I apologize for that, but it's just the way it is. Sorry.
No, that's all right. You know.
What
it is what it is.
All right. What do we know so far about bowls and where they're not going, I guess, would be the move.
Well, they're not going to the old Camellia Bowl. That is the one thing really no one's been able to tell us anything, and we've asked for sure. The only thing that when you and I would talk to Mark pregame, Mark Allnut, the AD, say, hey, you heard anything? He'd always say, no, haven't heard anything yet. All I know is we're not going to Montgomery.
Right.
For the third time in 4 years or whatever it is. So he was kind of told that. So I mean, that's basically the only thing that we've been saying is not Camellia. Projections are all over the place. I've seen the Bulls playing Coastal Carolina in Myrtle Beach, which would be a home game for Coastal. I've also seen the Bulls playing Coastal Carolina in Boise, which would not be a home game for Coastal.
For anybody, really.
Carolina. Yeah. So, I've seen us down in Mobile again. I've seen some projections where I saw one where we were in the Bahamas. So it's been all over the map, really. But the position as far as where we are in the conference, I think it's going to give us a pretty nice situation as far as both an opportunity to play a nice opponent and an opportunity to play in one of the better bowls. So I'm excited to just see where they go and where the matchup is. I have not seen us in any projections that have us in Detroit, which is, I believe, the day after Christmas and is the least
appealing
of any of the bowls. Although it does usually give a MAC team the opportunity to play a lower level Big Ten team and get an opportunity at a Big Ten win, which is kind of interesting and intriguing, but still, all in all, that's a tough spot.
Yeah, good stadium. Good stadium. But
good stadium. I'm sure that they do fun stuff.
I'll wait for a MAC championship game to go play at Ford Field again.
Right, and with Western Michigan winning, they have the opportunity to take a Michigan MAC team and put them in there. That will help with attendance, help with eyes to it. Like if they can get Western Michigan versus Michigan State, I think that they would be a very happy bowl game.
Yeah.
Because that's good. They're right there. Now, Michigan State and Western might not be thrilled about that, but
well, then win 7 games.
Right. Hey, listen, win 7 games. If Western could get the officials that spotted the ball against us all 12 games, they'd be 12-0.
Be undefeated, yeah.
But so I don't think that we're going there. I wouldn't be surprised if it was me, and I'm saying the most likely. I think Mobile, Potato Bowl,
Myrtle,
or Myrtle. I know that UB itself would really like to get into one of the Florida bowls, that Boca Bowl, something like that, where they're not necessarily directly tied into this. And you've said this all the time too, when we talk about bowls, when it comes to bowl games outside of the college football playoff now, when it comes to bowl games, they are television shows. So it's no longer about, well, West Virginia's 6-6, but we're taking them for the Gator Bowl because we know that their fans are going to travel. It's not really about that anymore. It's about, everybody says that there's too many bowl games, but everybody watches every friggin' bowl game. So they're all full of it because bowl games are great.
Right.
And it's more about the TV product. So some of these bowl games that aren't necessarily, quote unquote, tied in with the MAC are all mostly controlled by ESPN. So they can kind of move and shift pieces around where they need to, where necessary, to try and get matchups or things that are going to work out a little bit better. And I know that Boca Bowl, the UB has a high number of alumni down in that area, and they would really, really love to be able to talk them into saying, "Hey, we think this would be really appealing to our alumni. Have a strong Florida base. A lot of people move down there or go down there in the wintertime, where they would love to be able to come up and show up, and we think that we could really get something cool going in Boca." Now, again, it's up to TV, really, in the end, and the conference and working everything out. But, I think, again, the places I've seen us tied to the most in all these projections are Mobile, Myrtle, and Boise. And, I can't complain about any of those spots.
Nope.
Those are all, we haven't been to Myrtle for the bowl game, but we have been to Myrtle Beach to play in that stadium against Coastal Carolina. And that was a good time as well. They put you in a hotel, literally a quarter-mile walk from the beach. So you can't beat that. And it was, we had a great time down there, and we were only there for a day. So I would imagine that
a week
that's
there
a
would be
pretty
all
nice
right.
setup.
I like when you say, and you say this all the time about me, because I can't wait to hear what I said, because I don't remember any of the things I say because I talk too much. But thinking more about the idea of bowl games as TV shows and the whole thing being controlled by ESPN led me to a new view of it. It's almost like assembling the card for WrestleMania. Like, there are all different factors. I want this fan base against that fan base, and then this will work. Well, these two colors will look nice on this colored field, and all that stuff factors in if you think about one sort of entity as the mastermind, as the puppet master putting all the pieces together. It's not that different from building a wrestling card or a UFC card or whatever it is to create the best overall product. And that's kind of a cool new way for me to think of it. I like that. Thank you for leading my brain into that. What is your overall view of projections in the years that you've been doing this and tracking this? And for those who are not behind the scenes with us, Scott is the bowl projection, not even that, but like who's getting in, who's not, all the math, who's got to win, who's got to lose. We always go to Scott for that because he's insane and does all the research, and then we don't have to. But what have you found about bowl projections? Is it like, fantasy football draft projections where anyone with a little bit of common sense and an internet connection can put their opinions out there, and you can see the conference tie-ins? So, I could sit and make a bowl projection and put it out there, and it would all be perfectly possible. It just wouldn't, by any stretch of the imagination, have any basis in reality. Do you find that bowl projections are real or fake, or are there good ones, or are there bad ones, or how do we know?
I think that some of the ones from, like a Dennis Dodd or ESPN, they're a little bit more plugged in, where they have, or Brett McMurphy, where they've got, that these guys have actual sources that can say, like, hey, just so you know, Arkansas State might be leaning this way, that type of thing. For the most part, I would liken it to NFL mock drafts on the whole. You're just guessing. People are really just guessing, and they're taking educated guesses based on where the bowl ties are, who is eligible, looking at who has gone some places recently, and probably won't be going back there again. Like, if you're seeing bowl projections that are saying right now that Syracuse is going to go to the Pinstripe Bowl, everything else that person has said is, I think, stupid, because Syracuse has basically only gone to the Pinstripe Bowl for the last 10 years. No one here wants to go to the Pinstripe Bowl anymore. They don't want to do it. If they're 6-6, Syracuse is going to be fine with that. But they're not. They're really good. They want to go to the Gator Bowl. They want to go to a real bowl down south. So, you get places like that. And I think with some of the bigger names, actual known reporters, they have a little bit more better context and a little bit more context to throw that in there. But, you can, like you said, anybody can run a mock draft out there and say, hey, Shedeur Sanders is going to be the 15th pick in the draft. And you're like, no, he's not. No, he's not. He's not going to be, but they're out there. That's an opinion. It's out there. So yeah, it's everybody's just throwing darts on the wall for the most part, but I think some are a lot closer to actually knowing what is going on behind the scenes, because in the end, it's ESPN working with the conference commissioners and trying to get things settled that way, and to find the best possible matchups. I mean, if everything went by the book, like, it's not a coincidence that you get some of these games where, a team's quarterback transferred from the Big 12 to the SEC, and now all of a sudden we get to the bowl game and that SEC team is playing.
Sure.
That quarterback is going against his old team.
We even saw that with KVT and Georgia Southern.
Right. It happened to us. So, all those, they factor in storylines and, stuff like that. And as much as people like to say that doesn't have an effect, it does, because it's a TV show. It's going to get more eyes. If you get two teams that hate each other, with all the conference realignment, if you get two teams that were rivals that do not play anymore, that can both meet in the Independence Bowl, that's going to happen. That's just going to happen, whether one team should be there or not. It's a TV product, and they're going to try and put together the best possible matchups around, which includes trying to make some even matchups. You're not going to see, Western Michigan at 6-6 facing the champion of the Sun Belt. They're not going to do that. So all those little type of moves behind the scenes are all kind of going on.
I would like to correct myself. When I was sort of riffing, I did mean mock drafts. I didn't mean fantasy drafts. So good job.
But it's the same thing.
Good job,
it's the same thing.
Professional broadcaster, in taking my mistake and turning it into the correct thing. But that is what I meant. Before we continue with UB-related things, have you attended any other college football games since I last saw you?
I did. Had a chance to go and see Syracuse take on Miami.
How'd that go?
And that was awesome. That was fun.
Did you go into that with any expectations of winning the game?
No, not really. Syracuse had beaten Georgia Tech earlier in the year, and Georgia Tech is the team that beat Miami. So I thought that there was a possibility, and McCord has been great at quarterback. Ohio State probably could have used him, but he was on Syracuse. So talk about a transfer guy that worked out. My goodness, he led the nation in passing, and Ohio State couldn't move the ball on a 6-6 or a now 7-5 Michigan team. But anyway, yeah, I thought it would be close, only because Miami plays close games. They always find a way to kind of play with their food a little bit, and it usually ends up being whoever Miami is playing gets out to a 21-point lead, and then by the fourth quarter, Cam Ward finds a way to get him back in the game and wins a close one. And they just flipped the script. They just did it the opposite way, where Miami scored 21 straight immediately, and it looked like, oh, this is going to be terrible. And slowly but surely, the Orange came back on him and was able to get him. So that was fun. That was a fun game to take in. I
had company at my house all day, and I was texting with you, and you said, it must have been right around the 21-0 point where, like, well, this isn't really happening. But hey, I'm watching a top 10 football team. This is cool. The first time I turned the game on, it was 28-28. I was like, wait, okay. And literally the first play I saw was former Bulls safety, now Syracuse corner, Devin Grant, punching a ball out, scooping it, and scoring to give Cuse a 35-28 lead. And I watched the rest of the game, and it was awesome. It was awesome, and it might prevent. There's a good chance it prevents Miami, who was cruising through the season. It might keep them out of the playoff.
Yeah, kicked them out of the ACC championship game. Kicked them, and as of right now, if the season ended today, they would not be in the playoff. And if SMU wins, they're definitely going to be out of the playoff, because then there wouldn't be any movement ahead of them to have them move up at all. So I think that kind of ended their season, that loss. Even though it ends up being the top 25 loss, Syracuse now in the top 25. But, yeah, it's always fun to see Miami get kicked right when they're at their best, right when they're at the top. All they had to do was win. And even if they got to the ACC championship game and lost, they would still be in, because they're playing that extra game. They're not going to get punished for going 11-1 in the regular season and then losing a championship game to another top 10 team. They would still be in the playoff. And now they're just out. Now they're just out. They can enjoy the Holiday Bowl and just have to live with that for the rest of the year.
All right.
But I will say this: it was fun to see. Cam Ward was great in that game. I mean, he was great, and it was extra fun being able to say, "Oh my God, hey, I know that guy that just ran the ball back." And I think I could be wrong. I think it came out after the game that he's had like an MCL injury for the last 2 or 3 weeks, Devin Grant, and he's just playing through it.
Really?
So, I mean, that's the type of toughness that he showed with us here at UB. And it's fun to see. You know, last year, those 3 wins, it was basically because of a play like that. Like, Devin bailed us out and made unbelievable plays and was able to tilt the game in our favor because of him. And then he goes out and basically changes the game. It tilts it big time in favor of Syracuse to get the win, to get a top 10 win, storming the field, the whole deal. So happy for him that he's still making plays out there. I miss him in the blue and white, but still cool that he's out there making plays. Cool. He's always going to be a Bull. No matter what happens, he's still ours.
Yeah. Well, and it's cool that you get to keep him on your other team. So that's nice. That works out pretty well. All right. Signing day, early signing day. I still don't understand exactly what it means, because signings come out before, they come out after. There's early signing day, there's real signing day. We're going to get to that in just a second, because recruiting is exciting. But a couple of head coach hires in the last couple of days in the MAC that are certainly worth discussing.
Yeah, today. So Ball State and UMass both made a move, made a head coaching hire. Ball State brings in Coach Uremovich. He was a Northern Illinois offensive assistant under Carey. He was the OC there in 2018 when the Bulls played him in the MAC championship game, and has a lot of Midwest ties. He's coming in there. He was the head coach at Butler in the FCS. Only time Butler's ever been ranked, he brought him to it. He's had 3 really successful seasons there in a row, and then now he's just kind of sticking around in the Midwest and going down to Ball State. That's a nice little hire with a guy with MAC ties that also has head coaching experience for Ball State. Even though they shouldn't have fired their coach, because we needed them to win some of those last games.
Yeah, that would have been cool.
And they fired their coach, and they kind of went to crap. And then UMass goes out and I forget his last. It's a big, long last name. He was involved in the 2021 search for the Bulls when Mo was hired. He was also up for it. Harris Simiak. He's currently the defensive coordinator at Rutgers, but he was the head coach at Maine. Had a rough first season up there in Maine, but then had a 10-win season and was very successful up there. A lot of Northeast recruiting ties. A lot, he's coming out of that Northeast New England recruiting base. So he's really tied in there. And more importantly, was the announcement along with UMass hiring him was the amount of money that they are deciding to throw into their football program, which is eyebrow raising. Now, UMass football has had a pretty crappy last couple of weeks, PR wise. they asked their NIL collective to shut down. They're moving all that NIL money in house, so there was some ruffled feathers there. And then after that, they announced that they have so many seniors that they weren't going to do a senior day because they didn't have the time to do it. They had like 50 seniors on the team. Didn't have time to do it. And everyone's like, hey, what? Like, what the hell? This is our last game at home, and we're just not going to get anything because there's a lot of us. They had to backtrack on that, and they had to go back and do something for that. That was embarrassing. They made the coaching change, which, that's Don Brown was not only their head coach, but was a very successful former coach for them when they were in the FCS. So he was like a UMass legend. So to kind of get his legs cut out from underneath him a couple games before the end of the season wasn't really well received at all. And then also their last game of the season was an old rival in UConn. And the UMass NIL collective had started a rivalry trophy with UConn. They were going to present it.
Great. Yeah.
They were going to present it. It was basically an offshoot of the old Yankee Conference trophy, which the two of them used to be in and play for. It doesn't exist anymore. So they made it all up. It's present, and UConn won and was like, where the hell's the trophy? And UMass was like, we're not giving it. We're not giving it out because we didn't have enough time to get a sponsor for it. And we didn't have enough, a couple of other excuses. And it was really embarrassing. And now the people that actually have the trophy are saying, this is crap. They've known about it for a year. And we are going to drive it down and give it to UConn because they want it. So not exactly the best couple of days.
Yeah,
but
weird.
The announcement today, they're going to have the largest assistant coaches pool money-wise, over $2 million in the MAC now. And they are going to have their NIL in-house where they're going to have $2 million or more, according to what they released, to go out and use, which I'm sure Don Brown would have loved to have had. But that aside, the new coach is going to walk in there with an ability to seemingly have the money to upgrade the assistant coaches, as well as be able to go and shop around and try to pick up some new pieces. I would assume that they're going to be going into the portal with that money and basically going to use some of the blueprint that UConn has used the last 2 years, which is we're going to spend some money out in the portal. We're going to put some money out into it and see if we can't get a return. And UConn certainly did this year. They became a real team again. So more than the head coaching change, UMass starting to put some money into it. And they're going to look to try and make a splash here as they're coming back into the MAC after basically getting their teeth kicked in for the last decade.
How quickly can they become the force that I think they're anticipating becoming?
Well, you got to spend your money wisely. That's for sure if you're going to go out and do it. But, I mean, if they're going to get a real quarterback and they're going to beef up the lines, I think they can do it, it took Jim Mora Jr. there at UConn, took him 2 years. First year was, surviving and getting around it. And then that second year, they kind of bolstered everything and added to it. And this year they were competitive. The wide receiver at UConn, he was a Purdue transfer. They had a lot of those guys where all of a sudden they just kind of showed up on the roster, and most of the UConn roster is transfers, and they put some money into it and they've become competitive. So I think, they've got a lot of guys to replace. As I said, senior day there were a lot of guys, but they can get there pretty quickly if they're going to be serious about the money investment.
All right. Early signing day. First of all, what's early signing day compared to signing day, and also the ability to sign on days that aren't signing days? And then how are we looking? How are things in Buffalo?
Looking good. Going to have 18 guys coming in, freshman guys coming in, high school kids. Now, early signing, this is the early signing period, so they can start to sign now. There's, the traditional late signing day, which is in February still, I think. It's the Wild West. As long as it's after today, basically, I believe you can just pick up a guy and sign him. The portal wide open now. So you're starting to see a lot of, that first week that the portal was open, it was Ivy League guys because their season ends earlier. And again, Ivy League guys transfer when they have 1 year left because they don't get the 5th year option that everybody else does. They get 4 years and that's it. So they get that 5th year to play and they like to go out. And so you're getting experienced guys. See JJ Jenkins for the Bulls here this year. So that opened up, and now you're seeing guys like Cade McNamara, the quarterback at Iowa, backup quarterback at, was the starter, turned into the backup, got banged up this year. He's out there. So now you're seeing some familiar names, and, the UAB quarterback, Jacob Zeno, is a guy that's been around. He's out in the portal, and some of the Power 5 or Power 4 backups are getting into the portal now. You're seeing some familiar names. Connor Wigman, who was the starter for half of the season down at Texas A&M, he's in the portal. I'm not saying Connor Wigman's going to come to UB. I'm just saying the portal's starting to pick up a little bit here now, especially for teams that are not in championship week or in contention for the playoff. And it's going to start heating up. I know the Bulls are in on a couple of the offensive linemen in the Ivy League. They've offered some of them, and they're interested there. But, as usual, this is the 18 guys. It's about the same blueprint that almost everybody has had, which is, we're going to take 18 guys, 15 to 18 guys, and then we're going to try and go from there. And you can still sign guys coming out of high school after this. It's still a possibility. And then you're leaving yourself open for, 7 to 10 guys in the portal to be able to come in and make an immediate impact on a team if you've got the opportunity. And I like what the Bulls have done. Rankings wise, when you get down into the group of 5 conferences, I don't really trust any of the rankings just because, these places don't know unless some group of 5 team is bringing in 4 and 5-star guys that are slam dunks. You don't really know. How many years did Lance Leipold bring in the 11th ranked MAC recruiting class?
Right.
And they won 10 games pretty quickly. So, that type of stuff, the rankings have them right now around 5 or 6, which is good. I'll take it for sure. That's great. But again, I don't really pay attention to that type of stuff. And I like the variety that they've got. They touched on almost every position out there. And I like that when they're bringing in guys at the same position, when you watch them on tape, they don't look alike. They have different skill sets. It's not just bringing in the same guy over and over again. So I like the depth. I like what they've done with this class. Do you have any of the names in front of you, or should I just rip them through?
I do not have any names in front of me. I learned everything about this from you.
Okay. All right. Well, we'll start with the quarterback. Jason Wright, 6'3", 205. He's still down in the state playoffs right now. His team is on a 5 or 6 game winning streak here. Elsie Bird High School down in the Richmond, Virginia area. The Bulls really got after it down in Virginia this year, bringing in 3 or 4 guys from the Commonwealth down there, and they've hit that area a little bit harder than we have in the past, and we've seen great things out of the D.C. Maryland area for the Bulls in the past. So that's become kind of a nice recruiting ground that UB has gone to, and that's certainly fertile area down in that zone. So the Bulls bringing in a quarterback from down there, dual threat guy, big play potential, big play. I've seen him listed around 4.7 40. Good deep ball, quick release. He's got nice arm strength. When they go deep with the ball, he's putting it on the money. So, obviously he's still going to have to get some polish on him for sure. But the reason why I'm so excited about him is last year we were told that CJ Agbana was bad. And he's not.
Right.
He's not. This coaching staff has done a wonderful job with CJ Agbana. And I see a guy like Jason Wright, who's going to be coming in, that has all those tools, and I'm excited for him to get in and work with our coaching staff and get with it, because I think he could be a big play guy. He's got the tools for sure to make it happen. I'm excited about him for sure. I'm not going to put him on Tyree watch like when I was, like, oh my God, Cam Newton is coming to school with us.
But I will say you have been sending us stats from playoff games and things. I mean, you're on.
Yes,
you're watching.
I'm aware. He's playing Briarwoods on Saturday at 2 p.m.
That's what I'm talking about. I don't even know what that is.
Just saying. He's in the state playoffs. He led him through the regionals. He's had, I don't have the stats in front of me.
I don't need the stats.
He's had some outrageous stat games this year where, he's running for 2, throwing for 3, that type of thing. So, I really, really like Jason Wright. I like what he's going to bring in.
Okay. Let's just stick on the quarterback position for a second here. With Agbana gone, if you had to guess, where is the Bulls starting running back or quarterback, excuse me? Where's the Bulls starting quarterback coming from? Is it somebody who was on the roster this year? Is it Jason Wright? Or is it somebody from the transfer portal? What do you think they think, and what do you want?
Well, they have had down the stretch, they have had packages for Jack Shields, who was the Old Dominion transfer that came in last year, or just, what was it, in springtime. So I think they like him. I think they think highly of him, but we haven't seen him actually in a game where, haven't really seen him do anything in that regard. So, and it was Gunnar Gray that got in and threw when the game was in doubt or already over at UConn. And he looked good. I mean, I think if you were to line all the guys up on this team right now, I think you could say Gunnar Gray throws the best ball. He throws the nicest ball, but Agbana is a playmaker, and he's proven that. So he's been the starter all year. I don't know if the starters on this team net. I don't know if Wright can make the jump from high school straight to what they want to do. I know that if he's the best player, I don't think that Coach Limbo is going to think twice about playing him. We've seen that. If you're the best guy, if you can play well and he can rely on you, you're going to play. So, they'll find a way to get you in the game. Look at the number of running backs and what they did this year. If you can play, they're going to get you in. Victor Snow, he can play. They found ways to get him the ball. But then you also have Messiah Birch and Shelton and all these other guys. They all got in. They got looks. They played. They found ways to get in the ball. So if you can play, you're going to play. I think they're going to go into the portal and get another quarterback. That's me guessing.
Yeah.
I don't know if they're going to the portal to look for their starter, but I think that they're definitely going to be going into the portal for another quarterback for depth, for sure. After losing Agbana, they're going to bring in Wright. You don't know what other guys on the roster are still going to be there. So I think that they're at least going to look. They're going to see if you have an opportunity to bring in Cade McNamara, as I mentioned earlier, who was in the portal from Iowa, who was a former starter at Michigan. For one season, are you not going to take that to try and bridge possibly to Jason Wright taking over in the future? I mean, I would think that they're at least going to think about it. Sure. they're at least going to talk about it. So, I'm not sure where they're going. But you know what makes me feel good is we had the same conversation last year.
Exactly what I was just about to say. We didn't know during camp who it was going to be because we didn't trust CJ yet, and we knew that Gunnar Gray threw the best looking ball, but it worked out because you've got intelligent people making decisions. So that's kind of where I am. Like I'm just curious, but whatever they decide is fine. Like I'm not quite in the Brandon Bean zone yet, where whatever he thinks is right, I believe. But we're kind of heading in that direction. Like every idea they had was correct. Every plan was right. They lost a couple games here and there, but the improvement from a 3-win team to an 8-win team what? How am I supposed to doubt Pete Lembo and his staff when all I've seen of him is him taking essentially the same 3-win team from last year and turning it into 8, and he did it with the same quarterback question that we have going into this one. So, yeah, I'm with you on that. Last thing, are there any, we obviously got hung up on quarterback, any other recruits you're super excited about? Give me, one or two other guys.
Yeah, sure. I mean, they got some big old linemen coming in here, but that's a position I can't really tell much because,
Yeah, what is film?
Right. Jackson
he ran him
Davenport,
over. That's why he's
6'6",
here.
270.
Right.
Right. And, you're going to get guys that are 6'4", 305 against, Todd from English class. And, it looks like that at times, which is what you want your guys to look like. But, it's tough to really overall give you some, any type of overall evaluation of it. I like that they got a couple of tackles in Jackson Davenport from Connecticut, Caleb Watts from another guy from Virginia, from Prince George, who had 13 D1 offers. He was definitely sought after. And then Thomas Barr, who was more of an interior lineman, played guard center out of Pennsylvania. So, I like it. They got good size. They 'got good guys coming in there. They got a couple of tight ends coming in that I really like. Jelotko, I think is how you say his name, 6'4", 230. Also a baseball player, all-state tight end from Pennsylvania. You can split him out. Good hands. Goes up and gets the ball. One tie I have found through a lot of these guys' tape that they're bringing in is in their first, say, 10 highlights, 1 or 2 of them are plays made on special teams. And I know that that's something that Coach Lembo probably really likes.
Yeah.
But all these guys have that ability. And then the other tight end, Aiden Pedreros, 6'6", 240 from Staten Island, which is down in Coach Pete's neck of the woods. Reminds me a little bit of Tanner Koziel, who we saw
all right,
from Ball State. High points the ball, physical. They split him out. He can play out wide, but he also can come in, play physical. He's a guy that in the red zone in the scene this year in high school, they were banging to him, and he was just going up, high pointing it, bringing it down 20 yards, move the sticks. So it reminded me a little bit of that size and build that Koziel had. Nino Hill, power back, running back out of Canton, Ohio. Plays basketball as well. Had a ton of D1 offers. A bunch of other places in the MAC wanted him. Great vision between the tackles. Nimble, good speed. He's going to get downhill. Not afraid of contact. He's going to run you over. 6 foot 215. He'll see you. He's not afraid to go right through your face, which is a position that the Bulls are losing this year with Barksdale graduating, and he could come in and try to fill. Bringing in 3 wide receivers, and I like him. I like him a lot. Phil Fulmar, New Jersey, 6 foot 180. He's played running back. He's played wide receiver. He's fast, versatility guy. You can move him all over the field. You can put him anywhere, just like you can with Birch, just like you can with Snow. He's another one of those guys in that range. He had a 5-touchdown game this year against a really good opponent there in New Jersey. Went for 5 touchdowns, 199 yards receiving, 3 touchdowns. That also included a run for the overtime game winner and a kickoff return touchdown. So he can do it all. Another guy on special teams, Dwayne Early Jr. He's your tall physical guy, 6'4", 190. Had other offers, was sniffing around there with Pitt, BC. James Madison offered him as well. Regular season, 542 yards, 6 touchdowns, contested catches, really smooth, good route runner, but he's your more physical, tall guy that you can look to. And then Alvin Jones goes by Trey, 6 foot, 175 from Oscar Smith High School in Chesapeake, Virginia. His team is 15-0. They're also in the state tournament still. He's a track guy. He's your guy right in the middle that can give you the straight line speed, 10.59 in the 100-meter, first team all-region, regional champs. That 10.59, I don't have laser times on him, but if what the numbers are correct, that's like 0.8 of a second off of what won the gold medal this year. That sounds good. I'll take that. another guy in the special teams department that was devastating to teams in return games. He made huge plays. If you're interested, Colonial Forge versus Oscar Smith, 2 p.m. Saturday. He's also playing in the Virginia high school tournament this year. And offensively, I think good diversity. Defensively, they're bringing in Chris Climbs from Pennsylvania. 16 sacks, 34 tackles for loss, 71 tackles with a block extra point. He's a defensive tackle. Those are excellent numbers for defensive tackles. Athletic for his size, finishes hits. He's enthusiastic. He is right now my favorite guy on the defensive side. And it's not just because I have gone on his Twitter and I know that he retweets me and Paul doing our game recaps.
Nice.
But he's enthusiastic. He's pumped to be a Bull, and he plays. When you watch him, he plays like a maniac, and I like those types of guys. Rex Stinchcomb, DC area, 6'3", 290, tackle. He's going to punch you. Great versus the run, and I like the combination again. Climbs as the defensive tackle that can really pass rush and can really cause you problems. He's really quick and nifty in tight spaces. And then Stinchcomb is going to take on 2 blocks, win, and destroy your run game. And you can see that on tape as well. Linebackers, obviously, they're going to recruit some good linebackers after the fact that they have the nation's 2 leading tacklers at linebacker. Bradley Alunga-Bissay, he's from Montreal, but has played his high school ball down in Chattanooga, Tennessee. 6'2", 225, hitter. He hits and can force fumbles and really, really make things a problem. Reminds me a little bit of Red, that same type of hitting ability. George Hill is the other linebacker they're bringing in, 6'2", 225, same type of build out of Woodland Hills there in the Pittsburgh area. He squats 525, and he had 127 tackles. Okay. Yeah, I'll take that. 16 TFLs, 3 forced fumbles, and a pick. Good flow, all the right angles. He comes in. He's really good in the run game. A couple of safeties in Zaire Stevenson from Pittsburgh. Jonathan Rousseau, whose nickname is Greedy, who I like my safeties. I like my safeties nickname Greedy, 6'2", 185 for him out of Florida. If you look on his pages, as far as like huddle, stuff like that, Max Preps, he lists his position as competitor.
Okay.
So I like that. He's basically just put me on the field. I'll make a play. And he's got great anticipation feel. Again, special teams. He blocks kicks in high school. He's coming in. Good pass coverage. Stevenson, the other safety that I mentioned, is a physical guy. Reminds me a little bit of Solomon Brown's game, where you can put him up towards the line of scrimmage. He played a little bit of linebacker in high school, 6'2", 190. But in high school, that's a nice size linebacker. He can give you that run support. So while Rousseau might be able to play deep, Stevenson could probably too. But Stevenson is also another option that you can have a guy up near the box and feel confident that he can make those hits. And then a couple of corners, Jackson Small, 6', 185 out of Maryland. His head coach is Olandis Gary in high school there at Riverdale Baptist. So, he's getting good coaching there from the former NFL running back. Also got offers from BC Temple, James Madison, quick, good coverage guy, physical in this press coverage, really good at pass breakups. Always finds a way to get his hand in there and jar the ball loose. The other corner, Donovan Rodriguez, 5'11", 170 out of Lancaster, Pennsylvania, down there, in John Fuller territory. Quick twitch guy, again, special teamer. Right, I think he could probably play special teams right off the bat, and he hits. He sticks his nose in there. He's going to get you. Junior season had a really nice season. Got a pick, forced fumble, 39 tackles from that corner position, broke up 7 balls. So, and again, remember, some of these numbers aren't, if you think about from a corner, if you're going to a D1 school like UB, they're not going to have outrageous interception numbers because they're not getting thrown at all that much. If you're that good, teams just tend to look the other way. So
sure.
You have to find ways to make plays, and these guys have definitely done that and stepped up and found ways to make plays in the passing game, despite, not necessarily being targeted all that much because of their skill.
People ask me all the time, describe Scott Wilson. And I would say he's the kind of guy that when you say, give me 2 or 3 of your favorite recruits, he lists 15 recruits, and they all sound awesome because he put in the work and did the research, and he wants to talk about all of them. That's all of them, right?
Listen, that's all of them.
Yeah.
It's a good crop. I love the wide receivers. Fulmar is going to be, I feel like, a nightmare eventually for teams.
Well, it sounds like he's really gotten into shape
since
he stopped coaching at Tennessee.
That's right. Yeah, he's really rounded himself. He's gotten a lot quicker.
190. I don't remember him being 190 standing on the sidelines at Neyland Stadium.
No. He looked like 198, 190 out there. But yeah, I like the wide receivers. I like the physical nature of the guys that they brought in on defense. They all hit. And again, one common tie outside of the offensive lineman. One common tie is all these guys on their tape contribute and play hard on special teams. So some of these guys might not be able to make that immediate impact at their necessary position. But I think it's pretty clear that with Pete Lembo and how he stresses special teams, that's a factor. If you're going to play here, I want to see that you're making plays on special teams and that you can do that too. I think that they are bringing in some guys that will get an opportunity, as we saw this year. There's some guys where all of a sudden, in the middle point of the year, Paul and I are looking down on the roster saying, who the hell is this guy that's making every special teams tackle? Oh, okay, he's a freshman. It was a freshman special teams play that sealed the deal at Akron this year. So these guys are going to have an opportunity to come in and play, and they've definitely. It's obvious that you kind of have to show that on tape if Coach Lembo is going to definitely pull the trigger on you.
All right, man. I think we're good. We went a little long today, but that's okay because there's a lot to discuss, and we still don't know the opponent. So we'll get together and do this again next week once we know where we're going for bowl season. This 8-4 team looks to make it 9-4 in Pete Lembo's first year with the Bulls. It's a great time to be a fan of the UB Bulls, and we'll have you covered as soon as we have more information about where they're going and where we're going and how cool that's going to be. We'll check out all the other bowl games and scope that all out, but we'll have like a bowl preview type of thing next week when we get together. Sound good?
Sounds good.
All right. Later.
I don't know about you guys,
Later.
but I just want to get the hell out of here.